Guys, it's a show called Kingdom. It's on Netflix. It's a Korean show. Um, Fantasy, horror, that political kind of Game of Thrones drama. 2 seasons at the moment. And then there's a spin-off movie, Ashin of the North. Those two movies, I said those two movies. Those two things, Kingdom and Ashin of the North, which is a spin-off movie, made me realize something about thinking about Western entertainment and Western fantasy and films. One, that I have a false sense of entitlement to receive to to have certain types of like fantasy storytelling, and two, I also have another false sense of entitlement over the kinds of representation that Hollywood's I feel Hollywood deserves to give me, and I'm just going to talk about why Hollywood's sorry why watching Kingdom and Ashen of the North have changed that perspective for me. So, first thing, like I said, my first point that I feel is entitled, that it showed me an entitled feeling that I have about fantasy storytelling, to receive certain types of fantasy storytelling. Kingdom, first of all, is a series. It's set in a certain part of historic Korea. I don't know the correct pronunciation. Joshin, I believe. But it also mixes that with zombie monster horror. Uh, typical thing: virus spreads, people have to fight it. People go like Walking Dead, ape shit, and it occurred to me that even though this isn't an original concept necessarily, like blending horror with other genres, thrillers, so on, it felt fresh to me, and it made me see that by comparison, Marvel films, for example, right? I'm a disillusioned Marvel fanboy, MCU fanboy, and I realized compared to something like this, I'm expecting far too much from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, from superhero films, and like modern pop culture, fantasy in general. Whether it's like stuff that's happened in the past, like a Marvel Netflix, um, like a big Marvel blockbusters, or even future Marvel stuff like the promised Blade film that's gonna come, the Moon Knight series that's gonna come early 2022, I believe. All those things make me expect still, even though I'm trying to lower my expectations, they make me expect to get a certain type of tone and a certain type of approach to action, a certain level of writing and world building, and a certain production value that I associate with certain films I like. But they're all based on vague critiques and ideas from the majority of Marvel projects that have disappointed me. The majority, not the majority of superhero, a lot of superhero films and other fantasy projects that have disappointed me. Marvel don't owe me shit. Marvel Studios don't owe me shit. Yes, I grew up with it, but Marvel Studios is fine tuned. I have an entitled feeling about what I deserve from fantasy and pop culture, because clearly Marvel Studios isn't made specifically for me. It's not fine tuned for my expectations. It's a studio, and it's like a massive collaboration over this past 10 plus years that's fine tuned for their formula that appeals to various people, the masses who invest billions in a product. Billions. Which part of billions applies to one person who lives in South London? Does that make sense? Watching Kingdom made me realize that if I want a certain tone, a mature tone in my fantasy storytelling, if I want certain levels of writing and character building, world building, action, so on, I need to look elsewhere. I need to look to international stuff. like Kingdom, like Ashin of the North. I need to look to books, maybe graphic novels, other things that will give me that first, because that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for what Marvel Studios will most likely give me in the future, what they've given me in the past. And I'm blaming them. I'm repeating that pattern of blaming them for the present and the future based on stuff I've never liked about them from the past. Does that doesn't make sense? You see what I'm saying? So that's one way that Kingdom, the series, and Ash of the North showed me I have an entitled feeling about the kind of fantasy storytelling I want to receive um, from like Western media. Now, the second reason why it made me realize I have a entitled feeling about like Western kind of modern Western pop culture and films is because, secondly, I realized that I have a false sense of entitlement about the kind of representation I I want to see in Hollywood films or just in Western films in general that I watch. Quick context, of course, I've grown up watching. I like seeing black people in films, mostly other communities too, to varying uh, extent, and whether it's, I'll give examples. Various Black American films like black exploitation, action, various action movies. I'm trying to think, like a Bad Boys, um, but it doesn't have to be exclusive to black people. But the idea is that I like seeing some of the influences that remind me of myself, not me, but remind me of the films I was watching growing up. The Golden Child is one. Various Eddie Murphy movies, that kind of stuff. But also stuff that I feel like will make me want to learn more about different cultures. So an example of that would be, um, I'm trying to think. City of God is a good example of that. Like Brazilian favelas, all that jazz. What does that have to do with Kingdom? And my point again, Kingdom is a show that is made by Korean um, people set in Korea. It's not thinking about that woke-ish ideas that I have about representation. And I realized that I need to stop believing that mainstream movies are gonna give me the kind of storytelling I want. I have to go and find that for myself. And I've been doing that more and more lately. I've been going back to what I really like in terms of seeing certain cultural influences on um in the stuff I consume. Example, I did a review on this channel, a book review of a book called Children of Blood and Bone that is set in a fictionalized version of Nigeria. A bit Game of Thrones ish, a bit Game of Thrones ish, a bit Last Airbender ish. It mixes magic, like stuff associated with mythology from Nigerian Yoruba people, with that kind of low key anime sensibility, Game of Thrones ish sensibility, Harry Potter ish sensibility. That's the kind of stuff I consumed growing up. Harry Potter books, Percy Jackson books. I want to go back to that route and find out about other kinds of folklore, other graphic novels, other comic books, instead of and other films that give me that feeling and that joy that I associate with my childhood and growing up, watching various films and reading books, instead of thinking that Hollywood gives a damn about giving me a static shock movie, of giving me certain other types of movies. I watched the trailer the other day, The Harder They Fall, Western film, big black cast, coming out on Netflix. I think in the coming months. I think it's winter or autumn 2021. That's my kind of shit. I love westerns growing up. I love seeing films with black people. it's a done deal, right? But watching Kingdom, Ashen of the North, I did it. It didn't occur to me fully. I had the idea that I need to change my perspective, but it didn't occur to me fully that no, this is the wrong place to get upset about when it comes to Hollywoods. By comparison, this is the wrong place to get upset about ideas of representation and all that stuff. They don't give a fuck. They think doing the Black Superman movie is progress. No, it's not. Yeah, but I digress, guys. Like I said, those are my thoughts about how Kingdom, the series, Ash of the North, changed my mind about certain Hollywood products that are delivered to us and my perspective towards them. Tell me what you guys think down below. Agree, disagree, what don't give a damn. Um Comment down below. If you like this video, press that thumbs up button and press that subscribe button. Don't forget, it's right there. Don't be shy. Click. Other than that, guys, signing off. Salute.